We are live on YouTube and X. Josh Hennig hanging out with you back here in the 97.3 ESPN studio. But you know what time it is. It's time for Football Friday. Before we get to all the picks, got the sheet lined up. Just a couple of notes and items we're going to run down here before we get fully started. Number one, we will be back on the road next Saturday for Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM, and also right here on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. So next Saturday, we will be at yesterday's Creekside Tavern in Marmora. We'll be back there giving away prizes, doing trivia, and hanging with you on 97.3 ESPN. The following Saturday, so next Saturday, the 20th, we'll be on the road. And then the 27th, we'll be back on the road for Hanging with Hennig live from the Margate Fun Fest. That will be over on Amherst Avenue in Margate. We will be hanging out down there on the bay. So come on out to yesterday's Creekside Tavern in Marmora on the 20th. And then the following week on the 27th, down to Margate Fun Fest down there in Margate. So we will be on the road the next 2 weeks. That's the first thing I tell you guys. The second thing I got to tell you all about is I want to remind everybody that, again, we are live on YouTube and X. Any likes, subscribes, shares, we appreciate your support. We are trying to grow this thing, gradually. If anybody has watched this long enough knows, even though I've been doing the picks, for the Football Friday picks since 2018. This is the first year the show is live exclusive on YouTube and X. And, I would just want to put it out there, if you guys just can indulge me for a moment, that, it's because of all of you who watch, all of you who listen on 97.3 ESPN. I'll get these camera angles one of these days. But on 97.3 ESPN FM, it's because of all of you who watch on YouTube and X, all of you who like, share, tell a friend. It's all because of you guys that, this has been able to go where it's going. So I appreciate all the support, and I appreciate everyone out there who has tuned in, liked, subscribed, done all the social media stuff. Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there really quick. Okay. So, let's get into the picks, okay? And don't forget, all the picks are being brought to you by my friends over at Caesars Sportsbook. Use the promo code Radio20X if you're in the state of New Jersey when you download the app. For new users only, use my promo code Radio20X, okay? That is on the slate. Of course, every one of these odds, these lines, is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Also, we are here thanks to my other great sponsors, yesterday's Creekside Tavern, Marmora. You heard me say we will be there next Saturday, back there for another show. Also, Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit. Of course, it is the perfect combination of football and wagering right there on the casino floor with high-definition TVs, casino games. We will be back at Tropicana next month. So we'll be at Tropicana once a month for the football season. So thanks to all my sponsors. Also, thanks to Climate Performance Method, Egg Harbor Township, and, of course, Dr. Squatch Natural Soap. This is the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. All right? So we got a lot of picks to get to. I see a couple of messages that have actually already come in, as we are live on the stream at YouTube, at X, at Josh Hennig. So let's get into what happened last week, and then let's dive right in, because I don't want to spend a ton of time. I don't want to waste everybody's time here. We spent long enough doing the preamble, loading into this show, okay? Last week, college football, we went 8-4 last week. Overall in the year, we are 8-10, 18-10, okay? And, a couple of things that we got right, a couple of things we got wrong. Another live on-air wager with Mike Carlin for Penn State paid off last week. For whatever reason, we are 2-0 now in the live wagering during the show on Hanging with Hennig. But those are nails. We got those. I definitely got to say that I've been wrong about Oregon, and they are way better than I expected. That entire team has really impressed with some of the young players, and I think Dan Lanning is an early front runner for Coach of the Year. Take such a young roster and build them up is absolutely impressive. So I've been wrong about Oregon to start the year. What I've been right about is USF. USF has covered the spread 2 straight weeks now. They are just absolutely on fire. They may or may not make another appearance in this rundown. The other thing in college football I think is interesting. It's not really a right or a wrong, but I do find it interesting that the overly hyped quarterbacks, all of them, are struggling to some extent. Kay Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin. A lot of these guys are not as great as people thought they would be. Also, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Really, the only guy who's lived up to expectations so far has been Carson Beck. And I think it's a fascinating parallel because Beck was a guy highly regarded, and then he kind of just dropped off. So, obviously, the elbow injury didn't help, but he was struggling before the injury. Don't get it twisted. If you watched him at Georgia that final year, he did not look like a top draft pick. He had some really down games, and I'm very curious to see if Carson Beck can maintain what he's doing in Miami this year. He's not just going to elevate his draft profile, he's also going to elevate that program. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand benefit for everybody. So, again, last week we were 8-4 in the college football. We are 18-10 on the year. So, let's dive right in to the picks. By the way, if anyone who's wondering what the percentage is, I probably should have done the math earlier, but I'll just do it really quick right now. We are now at 64.3%. All right, on the college football. So let's try to bump that number up just a little more. We try to get you learn from last week, get better the next week. That's what we're going to do right here. Let's dive in. Football Friday picks, again, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, where all the lines come from. Gambling problem, do not hesitate to call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, we are presented by Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit, the ultimate football and wagering experience, as well as the best sports bar in South Jersey, Yesterday's Creekside Tavern, your home for every Phillies and Eagles game in Marmora. So, let's get into it. First pick, you kind of heard me kind of hint at this a little bit earlier, but the first pick is going to be Oregon 27.5 at Northwestern. Now, there's 2 reasons why I'm going with this game. Number 1, Oregon has covered the spread 2 straight weeks now, so there's a trend here. And I think the trend is that the odds makers, maybe they don't realize how good Oregon is, or maybe they're like me and they just thought Oregon can't be that good, right? You know, they lost so many guys to the draft last year. I tend to think that it's somewhere in between. I don't think the odds makers were as negative on Oregon as I was, but it's obvious that Oregon is better than everybody thought. And I think that Northwestern, they are down and out program. So I really like Oregon to go on the road and beat them down. Really, Oregon doesn't have a real test until later this month when they play Penn State. That's going to be whoever wins that game is probably going to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. I think that game is arguably one of the most pivotal games of the entire college football season. Okay. So Oregon minus 27.5. I think they're a high-powered offense. Northwestern, they're just not good. The next game we're going to go with is one of the big games of the weekend, Georgia, Tennessee. This was a game that I went back and forth with, but I kind of settled on the over-under because I think that the Tennessee plus 3.5 at home is a number that I am very indecisive about. I think the game at Tennessee really changes the dynamics of this game. I think if this game was at Georgia, I'd be very strongly inclined to go Georgia in this game. But because it's in Tennessee at Rocky Top, and for those who don't know, Rocky Top, where the Tennessee Stadium is actually one of the largest stadiums in the United States. It actually held one of the largest capacity crowds in the entire country. So I think you have to factor in the reality that place, right? Georgia at Tennessee. If it was at Georgia, I'd feel a little differently. But because it's Georgia at Tennessee, I don't like the line. I'm going with the over 50. All week I was thinking going under. But when I looked at the game closer and closer, I decided to look at the numbers. And while on the eye test says that Georgia and Tennessee's offenses are not great, I think the numbers tell you the defenses are not great either. I think there's enough talent offensively for both teams that I think that you have to look at the over 50. I'm not loving the number. If you're someone who could find maybe an alternate line on Caesars Sportsbook, I would definitely rock with that. If you're someone who's like the over under, if you see the 3.5 and you can maybe buy it down to maybe like one of those same game parlays where it's kind of like you buy it down to like 5.5, 6.5. No, it would be 6.5 for Tennessee, and maybe like you bring it down like 46, 47.5 for the over under. Play around with that. Not love the number. I think it's gonna be a great game though. It's gonna be very close. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee wins, but I think Georgia just has just enough talent to beat them. A game I was wrong about last week was Iowa State and Iowa. I thought that was going to be a high-scoring game, but apparently that was the first time all year both teams' defenses showed up. Nothing I can do about that. But I tend to think that Iowa State might be a little annoyed that they didn't score more points. And I think they are, even though they won the game, I think they're going to take it out of Arkansas State. This game is a road game for the Cyclones, and I think they are going to beat the snot out of Arkansas State. Give me Iowa State to cover the 21 points. I think this is going to be one of those games where it's like Iowa State's kind of got some pent-up emotion, and they're going to run through Arkansas after the big rivalry game last week. I know a lot of people think this might be a letdown game, but I tend to think that Iowa State thought that the Iowa game was going to go very differently. And I think that Matt Campbell, he's not the kind of coach who has guys who get letdowns the next game. So I tend to feel that game is going to work out. All right. Next game, we'll go with the backyard brawl. Pitt versus WVU. So this is a game where I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about what is West Virginia going to look like. They are without their number one running back and the number one wide receiver for the entire year. Both guys are injured. Both guys are done. So it's fair to assume that West Virginia is not going to have like a great game, right? But it is in Mountaineer country, okay? It is in Morgantown. So I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think that this is a rivalry game that has a lot of animosity. And remember, I think it's the last time they play until 2028, 2029. So I tend to think that the backyard brawl is going to be a brawl. My projected score for this game is 32-13 when I ran my numbers, and that hits the under, okay? So I think Pitt is going to go to WVU, get the win. It's going to be a bit of a nasty scene, but Pitt will get out of there. Narduzzi's a great coach. They will get the win in that game. Next game, I mentioned University of South Florida. That's a game that we have gotten right 2 straight weeks here on the Football Friday show. Again, we are here every Friday night. Like, subscribe, at Josh Hennig on YouTube, at Josh Hennig on X. Share it with your friends. We gotta build this thing. Okay, we're not on the radio anymore for Friday nights. We do exclusively on the YouTube and on the X platform. I think South Florida is not going to be able to upset Miami the way they did Florida and Boise State, okay? I think Miami's going to win the game. I just think that 17.5 is just too much. Can I see Miami winning by 10 points, 14 points? Absolutely. But 17.5 feels like a bit of too much of a generous number. I think that what is being overlooked in this game is that when a team gains confidence, when they start building themselves up, I think that what happens is that when you start building that confidence, it's hard to beat a team, right? You get to a point where you look at yourself and you're like, hey, we could beat anyone. And again, I don't think South Florida is going to beat Miami. I think Miami has proven themselves to be one of the best teams in college football. But I do think a 17.5, and remember, these schools are all fighting for bragging rights. If South Florida can say we beat Florida and we kept it close with Miami, that's almost a win for them. Let's go to the next game. Arkansas at Ole Miss. You will hear me talking to 1992 Heisman Trophy winner Gino Torretta tomorrow and hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig, on X at Josh Hennig. Gino is a guy who in the past has joined me throughout the years of college football on 97.3 ESPN, and great guy. He will be on the call for the Arkansas Ole Miss game. Arkansas has a lot to prove. This is a huge game for them. This is a huge year for Sam Pittman. This is a guy who came out with a bang at Arkansas. Great recruiting, bringing in all these guys, and he had a couple down years. And last year, he barely got those 7 wins. That 7-6 mark, he barely got there. So, now you go on the road to an Ole Miss team that has a freshman at quarterback who has 4 interceptions in the first 2 games. That is a recipe for Arkansas to have a close game. I don't like the over-under in this game. I think that is a bit of a mischievous number. But I do like Arkansas to cover the 8.5. I think that their quarterback, Green, is a future NFL prospect. I think he's dynamic. And nothing against Simmons, the quarterback for Ole Miss. But I think he's just too young, and he's a year away from being a year away at this point. So Arkansas, 8.5 on the road against Ole Miss is a number I really like. I don't expect it to be a crazy high-scoring game, but I do think Arkansas has the talent. And no offense, I think they want it more. Lane Kiffin made some weird comments this week, talking about how, I'm such a good offensive coach that I recruit defensive players instead of offensive players anymore. Like, Lane's kind of been, kind of hinting at he's not too thrilled with his team lately. So I'm kind of wondering, is Lane kind of at a point where he's kind of letting you and I know he knows his team ain't that good this year? Let's go to Texas A&M at Notre Dame. So the over-under is 49.5. So my projected score is 30-23. Coming into the year, I thought that Notre Dame and Texas A&M, with 2 head coaches who have defensive backgrounds, I thought both of them were going to come into this year guns a-blazing defensively. They both had great recruiting classes, gaining more defensive players through the transfer portal and through high school recruiting. Well, apparently both of their defenses are met this year. They're not great. They're kind of average. So I tend to think this is probably going to be a little higher scoring game. I think that what you saw in the Miami game with Texas A&M, with Miami and Notre Dame, is a precursor for this Texas A&M game. I think Texas A&M has the offensive line to do to Notre Dame what Miami's O-line did, which is get very physical with them and control the line of scrimmage. I think this is going to be a game where the offenses are going to overwhelm the defenses at times in the game. So that's why I like the over 49.5. My projected score, according to my calculations, it's a 30-23 kind of game. So that adds up to an over 49.5. Next up in the college football slate, let's go to another SEC game. Arguably, this might be my favorite game of the entire weekend. And it's the game that I am going to do everything in my power to try to watch this game, to be honest with you guys. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. 2 of my favorite quarterbacks in the SEC, Diego Pavia, the brash, short, me against the world quarterback at Vanderbilt versus the super recruit, all the talent in the world, great human being, but he hasn't fully tapped into what he's fully capable of, Lenore Sellers. Sellers, Pavia, it's an amazing quarterback matchup, but I'm taking the under in this game. I think that Pavia and Sellers, there's so much tape on them at this point that coaches know how to prepare for them. And neither guy has really broken through to that next tier yet. Neither guy has really gotten to the point where they can say, teams figured me out, made adjustments. Now I'm adjusting to them. I don't think either guy is at that point yet. So I tend to think this is a 27-21 kind of game, which barely hits the under, but I tend to lean in that direction. So that's the main slate of college football picks. I see a comment coming in here on the YouTube stream. That is Jeff from Ocean City. If you ever listen to 97.3 ESPN, he is asking about Penn State. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even look at the Penn State number. The last 2 weeks, those were live on the radio wagers that we gave out. So let me see if I can find Penn State for you really quick on the Caesars Sportsbook app. Remember, if you use my promo code Radio20X, if you're a new user, you get 20 bonus bets. All right. So let's pull up Penn State. Let's see if I can find this in a reasonable amount of time. Let's see here. By the way, I'm completely staying away from the Wisconsin-Alabama game. I have no feel for that at all. I think that game is a complete bizarro world game. Let's see here. USC Purdue. Ohio State's probably going to beat the snot out of Ohio, but I don't even see Penn State on this slate. Why is that? All right, hold on. One of the problems with these sports books is they don't always list stuff very well. Let's see here. Georgia, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arkansas, UTEP, Texas, South Florida, Miami, Illinois, Ohio State, Mississippi, Notre Dame, Florida, LSU. Florida, LSU is going to be a great game this weekend, by the way. That's going to be a make or break game for Florida. If Florida loses that game, Billy Napier is going to be on the hottest seat he's ever been on. So I got to tell you, Jeff, I don't see Penn State listed at all on the sports book. So they must be playing a cupcake. They must be playing like a nobody this week. Like the nobody of nobodies. Here, I'll check another sports book for you. Just for you, Jeff. Just because you asked the question. Okay? Of course, you're asking me about a game that probably... who are they playing? IUPUI? I mean, goodness sake. Oh. Well, thanks, Jeff. You could have helped me with that earlier. Oh, Villanova. Is that at Penn State or at Villanova? I'm assuming it's at Penn State. Is 45.5 the main number? Or is there another number with that? Let me see here. Some books have 48.5, it looks like. So it looks like this number. See, when there's that much variable between sports books, that kind of gives you an idea that nobody actually knows how this game is going to play out. Let me see here. So Caesars Sportsbook, I found it. It's at 47.5. There's a couple books that have it 45, 47, 48. All right. Math is not mathing, Jeff. Let's dig deeper. What do we always say when the math doesn't add up? What do? We dig a little dip. It'll dig a little deeper. The total is... Oh, that does not math at all. 55 to 57. Yeah, I tend to think Villanova's going to cover that spread. I think that's a game when the math doesn't add up. I think Franklin's going to pull all the starters in like the third or fourth quarter, and then Villanova will get a backdoor cover like Nevada did. That's kind of how I see that game. Well, like you can't have a game with the over-under 55.5 and then the spread be 45.5. Because what you're suggesting is it has to be a literal 45-10 game. And I see a scenario where Penn State's maybe winning 35-0 at halftime, and they only score. What you're basically inferring is that Penn State's backups are so bad offensively, but they're so great defensively to cover that number. And when there's that much variance in the books, 45 to 48.5, that kind of gives you an idea. Take Nova on the spread. Again, at Caesars Sportsbook, it's 48.5. So if one book's got 45, one book's got 48, that kind of gives you an idea that you don't want to take Penn State. You want to take Nova. Okay? So I think this is going to be a game where Franklin is going to say, I'm going to get the lead. I'm going to rest my guys. Jeff, you're right. Penn State is 0-2 against the spread this year. So I tend to think they can't cover that number. I think Villanova will. The question with Villanova is, and this is where I wish my guy Emory Hunt was here having this conversation with us, but I don't really know Villanova that well this year. I can't tell you if they're good or bad. I mean, they won an FCS championship, 20 years ago? The last time Villanova consistently was good, their running backs one year was Brian Westbrook and another year was Matt Caesar. And just to jog people's memory, Brian Westbrook went on to have a really good career with the Eagles in the NFL. And then Matt Caesar, if you don't remember, was a superstar athlete in high school sports in South Jersey at Lower Cape May Regional. And he actually didn't play in the NFL. Matt Caesar went on to play baseball and was a member of the 2016 Chicago Cubs World Series team. So when I think of Villanova, that's how far back I'm going. I couldn't even tell you who's on the team now. The only other guy I can tell you off the top of my head for Villanova is Howie Long. It's like Howie Long, Brian Westbrook, Matt Caesar. Those are the football players I can tell you. If there's one more, we can make a Mount Rushmore. All right, let's get to the NFL picks because we got to wrap this thing up. I don't want to keep everybody all night. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends as we do Football Friday show every night here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig and at Josh Hennig on X. All right. We were 6-4 in the NFL last week. I was very disappointed that the Vikings couldn't keep the Bears from scoring more than 21 points. I was shocked by that. I think it just goes to show you that Ben Johnson is probably a better head coach than we all realize. And that, the Vikings are kind of maybe still figuring out some of their personnel, right? So, excuse me, I had to get a little sip there. So, I got that wrong last week. I knew the Lions were going to lose to the Packers. I didn't think they would get donkey kicked the way they did. The Lions they're either worse than we thought they were, or the Packers have one of the best defenses in all football this year. Could be a little bit of both. Also, how about the low-scoring game between the Bengals and Browns? How much of that is just early in the season, teams have strategies that haven't been figured out yet? I mean, who knew that Al Golden and Jim Schwartz were going to come in there and be the dominant coaches in a game with two famous offensive coaches in Kevin Stefanski and Zach Taylor? By the way, did anybody see the video this week of Zach Taylor begging his team to begging the fans to come out for the team so they can be loud at the beginning of the game? He said, "Can you guys come in 10 minutes early and get away from your tailgates?" Can you imagine if Philadelphia or like New York or like, a real football city like Pittsburgh having to beg the fans to come in from the tailgate? I mean, so bad. Poor Zach Taylor. I mean, Eagle fans are in their seats for the game starts 9 times out of 10. Same thing with Steeler fans. Same thing with Giant fans. Most of the time with Jet fans, Raven fans. Like, how lousy of a football season is Cincinnati that you got to beg the fans to bail on the tailgate to come inside? So poor. By the way, Bengals are on the list here. But we went 6-4 last week. Let's get to the picks here on the Football Friday show. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. We will be on with Hanging with Hennig tomorrow, 12-3 on 97.3 ESPN. All right. I mentioned the Bengals game. They're playing the Jags this week. I'm gonna lean with my numbers and my instincts. Okay. I tend to think it's going to be an over game. I think the Jags showed you last week that their offense has found something. Now, I don't think it means that Trevor Lawrence is going to be like a superstar quarterback or anything. I think he's still got a ways to go for that, but they definitely have a balance between the run game and the pass game. And this is going to be the biggest test of Travis Hunter's career. Because the head coach of the Jaguars, Liam Cohen, said that they want to play Travis Hunter more on defense. Well, if you're playing him more on defense, he's less on offense. So how does that impact the rest of the guys? Is Brian Thomas going to get more or less targets? Does that mean that ETN, Tootin, and LaQuint Allen will get more touches from the running back position. I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think that the Bengals, they realize they're going to be better than they were last week. And I don't think the Jags have the defense that's going to thump like the Cleveland Browns do. So give me the over 49.5 in that game. I got a feeling it's going to be, when I ran the numbers, that looked like a 35-30 game. So, speaking of Florida, I think the Dolphins are falling apart, and they're pulling apart fast. I think this goes back to their 2023 season when they were on Hard Knocks. And so on Hard Knocks, the in-season edition, they were very critical of Vic Fangio. And when Vic Fangio left the team, the players were like, good riddance, we're glad he's gone. And ever since they were criticizing Fangio, they've gone downhill. Tyreek Hill's not a captain anymore. He's a cancer in that locker room. Tua looks lost, dazed, and confused. The entire organization's a mess. So I tend to think the Dolphins are going to get pounded into the sand. So give me the Patriots over 21 points, 21.5. Depending on what book you look at. We're going by Caesar Sportsbook numbers here on the Football Friday show with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN. Is where we'll be tomorrow for Hanging with Hennig. We are live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. But yeah, I think the Patriots are they're a solid team. And I think they're going to put up big numbers. Listen, Drake May put up good numbers without Josh McDaniel last year. I tend to think McDaniel can have him up and going. And remember, this will be a game where Diggs will be another game healthier, another game more ramped up in the offense. So I tend to think that the Patriots are going to dominate this game. Another team total I like. I went over team total the Patriots, 21. I like the team total under for the Seahawks, 18.5 at Pittsburgh. I just can't see a scenario where a proud Pittsburgh Steelers defense with guys like J.J. Watt and Highsmith and Jalen Ramsey, they're going to let themselves get scored on a lot of points. I think that where a lot of people were wrong, including myself last week, was I think that we underestimated how much knowledge Justin Fields had of the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers had of the Jets. A lot of those defensive personnel are very much the same. So for me, I think that was an anomaly. I don't think the Steelers defense is that bad. I think the Seahawks, it's a road game for Seattle coming from west to east. It's always a tricky situation with those teams from west to east. I think the under 18.5, I can see the Steelers winning this game 30-18 or 28-18, something like that. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to keep, he's on the revenge tour. He's on the I'm going to prove you wrong tour. Another matchup of one team that barely won last week versus a team that looked horrible. Cardinals hosting the Panthers. Give me the Cardinals to cover the 6.5. I think this Cardinals offense is way better than we saw last week. A couple of drops probably hurt them in the long run. I think the New Orleans Saints played very well at home. They played better than anybody thought. And I think that the Cardinals are to go home. They got a Panthers team. Other scenario. East to West. Panthers didn't look good last week. Second straight week on the road. I think they are going to get dominated by the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals win by at least 10 points. So 6.5 seems like a pretty easy number to cover. Speaking of covering numbers and revenge tours, Bears at Detroit, the Ben Johnson Bowl, right? I like the Bears to cover the 6.5. I think what you saw from Ben Johnson last week was a guy who's a better coach, I think we realized. And for the missed throws that Caleb Williams had, some of those missed throws were because Ben Johnson put the team in such a good position to be successful that they were able to have a chance to win that game when they probably shouldn't have, considering, who the talent was on the field. Combine that with the fact that Detroit looked lost, dazed, and confused last week. Jared Goff, he is 3-18 now when he does not have either Sean McVay or Ben Johnson as his coach. That is not good. That just goes to show you that guy is, and I hate saying it this way because I don't think Jared Goff's a bad guy. Jared Goff has limitations. There, I said it. He's got limitations, and if the right coach is not in his ear to amplify him, he doesn't have it. I think the Lions are going to have trouble in this game, and I think the Bears are going to cover. I don't think the Bears win outright, but I can see the Lions only winning this game by 3 points in the end. Another team total I like. Falcons team total under 20.5 in Minnesota. This kind of goes with the Steelers' idea that when a good defense, a proud defense, struggles in week 1, they want to come out and punch you in the mouth in week 2. Falcons, a team that they were okay last week. Going to Minnesota against a proud defense. Brian Flores has probably been in the lab all week coming up with a plan and a scheme to handle Michael Penix and the Falcons offense. I tend to think this is going to be a rough day at the office. Give me the under 20.5. I think Minnesota probably wins this game. Something like 27-17 kind of game. J.J. McCarthy looked way better than I thought, and while I was right about Atlanta's offense having some limitations, I was undecided. I said the jury was out on J.J. McCarthy. I think that what you saw last week was a young man who takes the coaching. I thought that you saw a young man who rose to the occasion and really stepped up for the Vikings. I got 2 player props for you guys in the NFL on Sunday. So Eagles traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Jahan Dotson. I don't know why. I'm going to double check it because I saw this number earlier and I almost fell out of my chair. I don't know why. I don't know how. Jahan Dotson's receiving total is very, very low. I want to see if that number has changed because it doesn't make sense to me that it would be 9.5 receiving yards. I mean, this just feels like easy money. Let me see here. Let me see if that number changed at all. Receiving yards. Jahan now it's 10.5. I still like it. Like, there's no Dallas Goedert in this game. Goddard's been ruled out for the game. Who's getting the ball? The Chiefs have a good defensive coordinator. If they're going to slow down Saquon and they're going to slow down A.J. Brown, the ball is going to Devontae Smith and it's going to Jahan Dotson at some point. I just don't see a scenario where Dotson only gets 10 yards. I think he gets 20 to 30 in this game. I think Dotson is proven himself to be a good safety valve, a guy who understands where to be in the offense now. He understands and accepts his role. And I think that 10.5 is just way too low on the receiving yards. So give me the over on that for Dotson. Similar idea. So the 49ers versus Saints game. Christian McCaffrey, the over-under on his receiving yards is 34.5. In a game where Mac Jones is going to be the starting quarterback, I tend to think that they're going to realize no George Kittle. We have some injuries on this team. We got to lean on CMC. And CMC is arguably at his best in open space. There's no one on the Saints that can slow him down in the open field. They gotta send 2, 3, 4 guys at him. I think McCaffrey has a really good game for San Francisco. I think Mac Jones hits him early and often, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. So I like the over 34.5 for Christian McCaffrey. By the way, Eagles, Chiefs for a final NFL pick. I like the under. I think Fangio and Spagnuolo are they're going to be ready for their counterparts. I think Fangio showed you last week what he is capable of doing when he's forced to adjust on the fly. He is not afraid to make changes and adjustments. I think he is going to have a wall of a time in this game. And I think Spagnuolo understands that the Eagles offense does have some limitations early in the year. That's when they get the Eagles. You get them early in the year. You saw it in 2022. You saw it in 2024. When do you hit the Eagles? You got to get to them early in the season. That's when you slow them down. That's when you have the most impact against them in the Nick Sirianni era. So I tend to think, I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game. 46.5 in a hostile environment, in a big road game. It's only been in the Super Bowl. This has been high scoring matchups. in the regular season matchups, it's been lower scoring. So I look at that 46.5 and I say, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win the game 24-20. I think it's that kind of game. 23-20, 24-20, 20-17. I think that both coordinators are going to be very apprehensive to let the other team get behind them. And I think that's going to really impact that game. So those are the Football Friday picks and the college football picks for September 12th. Thanks all you watching. One more note here. Jeff watching on the YouTube stream says, UCLA losing at home right now to New Mexico late in the first. Nico Amalieva is horrible. That guy was a byproduct of the Josh Heupel system in Tennessee. He thought way too highly of himself, and for a young man who claims to be a Christian, I guess he never read the proverb where it says pride comes for a fall, because his ego is coming back to bite him hard. He says, I hit in Colorado, Houston tonight. Thanks for all the winning bets. Let's cash them. What was the final score of that Colorado Houston game? Because I saw, I was kind of like tracking that loosely, but obviously the Phillies were the priority for me tonight. Let me see here. What was the final score of that Houston game? Oh, it's still going. 14-33. That was always going to be a weird game. I'm going to put that on the TV here in the studio because, one of the things people understand about Colorado is everyone talks about Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, but they lost a lot more than those two guys from last year. Let me see here. So Staub has played the whole game. I hate saying it for Staub's sake, but I don't think he's starting the game next week. Colorado isn't a quarterback. They have a consistency problem. They really do. Who's got Colorado on their schedule coming up? Wyoming. So Wyoming, they should win that game. They'll probably lose to BYU. The TCU game. They'll probably lose to TCU. They'll lose Iowa State. Ooh, this is a murderer's row schedule. Hold on, let me pull this up on the screen for everybody watching on the stream. See, this is it's situations like this why you can't just run with every single over under, because Colorado had an appetizing over under. That's a big touchdown throw by Staub there. See, if he does more of that, they can win games. Let's pull up Colorado's schedule for the rest of the year, because I don't know how many. If they don't find a way to win this game tonight, I don't know when they're going to win a game. I'm just saying, I don't know. Let me see here. What's Colorado's schedule for the rest of the year? Because I am very curious. How many games are they going to win this year? I mean, that was a great throw by Staub. Oh, wow. 2-point conversion. They're going for it. He's scrambling to the right. Oh, boy. That was a bad play call. Well, see, I don't know. I don't have the full details. That they're going to give us a replay. Because that was either a bad call or a bad read. Oh, that was a bad call. Yeah, that's a bad call. Because, see, what happened was the entire play was built with the entire offensive line running right. Staub was supposed to stay behind the line as they ran right, but the line could not execute. And they were unable to stick with him and help him. And then the blitz came through, and they never had a chance to throw it to the end zone. So that was a bad play call. But still 33-20 Colorado. Here's Colorado's schedule for the rest of the year. And I got to tell you guys, as I'm looking at this schedule, I don't know where Colorado wins another game. Because outside the Wyoming game, which they'll win that game, Wyoming's not that good this year. But BYU, I think very highly of them this year. TCU just completely dominated North Carolina, and that game's at TCU, okay? Then they come back home to Iowa State, and they go on the road to Utah. They come home to Arizona. You're looking at a stretch of games from September 27th to November 1st, where I don't think they win a game that entire stretch. Right now, they got one win on the year. Unless they come back to win this game tonight, which they're doing an onside. Are they doing an onside kick here? I think they are. Yeah, they're onside kicking this. That's a bad onside kick. Yeah, there's a flag. Didn't go the necessary yards. It's a bad job. See, and this is where college sports always come back to bite you. Because if you don't have the guys who know how to execute, you get in a lot of trouble. So they were unable to execute. It's just a bad job. So let's go with this. They're going to lose tonight. Then let's say they beat Wyoming. West Virginia is shorthanded at this point, so they're probably going to beat them. Arizona State, that's a shoulder shrug. Who is Arizona State at that point in the year? Are they going to win more than 3-4 games? If they don't win this game here, guys, I'm telling you right now, they're not beating BYU. They're losing to TCU. They would need to get very lucky against Iowa State and Utah. Same thing with Arizona. Arizona, theoretically, they could beat them just because it's in Boulder. It's in, Colorado's home field. So, yikes. That's a brutal stretch of games, though. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to win games. I just don't. And I feel for Colorado because of the fact that I think that Dion is trying to build something there, but it's obvious that they miscalculated on the quarterback position. They really thought that, Saban was going to be the guy. Like they recruited him very hard. They really worked really, really, really hard, to get him not just to leave Liberty, but for him to choose Colorado over other places. Caden Salter didn't have to go to Colorado. And you're talking about a team now that's got 3 quarterbacks, and none of them are particularly that exciting. Staub, he threw an interception today, right? He threw a touchdown interception. He's okay. Caden Salter was supposed to be the guy. And they're obviously benching him because he just doesn't have enough of I guess you say he doesn't have the grasp of the offense. I guess would be the explanation. Staub, this is now his 3rd year in Colorado. So they're basically telling you that, hey, Staub knows the offense. Caden Salter doesn't know the offense. That's basically what you're saying at this point. And so if Salter is having that much of a problem picking up the offense, I don't know how Colorado is going to win a lot of games this year. Because Salter is the more gifted athlete, but it's definitely a problem. Let's see if the other game's on TV here in the studio. For those who don't know, here in the 97.3 ESPN studio, we get limited channels. We don't get all the channels. So it's like, if it's not on the channels that we have, we don't have it. Kansas State, Arizona's on TV. Flip that over. I'm being told that UCLA is down 14-0. Man, Nico Amalieva. Nico is the biggest fail. I thought UCLA was going to have a bad year. If you're losing 14-0 to New Mexico, that's really bad. All right, folks, I got to go. I got other work to do at the studio before I can go home and get some sleep. It's already 11 o'clock at night. Thanks to all of you for watching. Again, we are here every Friday night. We're going to try to do this a little earlier next week. Today was a very odd day for me here in the studio, here at the station. So I hope everyone has a great evening. We'll be back with Hanging with Hennig tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. There you see the sign behind me. Tomorrow, As I mentioned, 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, national champion Gino Torretta. He will be joining us at 12:25. The fantasy football segment with Andy McNamara at 1:25. Also, 2:25, Caden Steele. He's traveling with the Eagles, covering them for NG.com. We're going to get his perspective on Eagles without Dallas Goedert. What does that really mean for Philadelphia? So that's all tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, streaming live right here, YouTube, X, at Josh Hennig, in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. Don't forget about Caesars Sportsbook. It's the only sportsbook with Caesars rewards. My friends over at Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit, the ultimate football and wagering experience right there with the table games and the high definition TVs. And of course, next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, we will be at yesterday's Creekside Tavern on Roosevelt Boulevard in Marmora for our next live remote at yesterday's, the best sports bar in South Jersey, where you should go to watch all the Eagles and Phillies games because they have the audio on. Thanks to all of you for watching. Have a great night, and I'll see you in about 13 hours. Take care, everyone.